Welcome everyone, Dr. Thor here. Welcome to Gnosis, otherwise known as The Truth. Let's talk about things that you don't know about Bruce Lee. After publishing the video talking about Bruce Lee as the most overrated fighter of all time, not really fighter, actor, martial arts actor of all time, people have been incensed by this because he was something special. Let's get into the special person he was. First of all, Bruce Lee was not born in China, otherwise known as Hong Kong, the colony, the Commonwealth of Britain until recently. He was born in San Francisco and moved there to a young age with his actor father. And as a boy, he was an actor with his father in many movies. This is fact. Now, everything I'm stating here has been talked about in documentaries and books about Lee, and they're all verifiable from these third parties. Bruce Lee had a passion for dancing. Woohoo! Especially when he returned to San Francisco. He was a cha-cha champion. He also was known that when he took boats, apparently, which were still being operated in that time frame, I guess, coming from Hong Kong back to the United States, he used to teach the cha-cha to the rich passengers to make extra money. Isn't that interesting? Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but when there's real fighters out there like Joe Louis who don't get any respect, or even Chuck Norris to a certain degree, these guys, both of them who were in the military learning how to kill people while Bruce Lee was cha-chaing. Yoo-hoo. He also was an rabid fan of the soap operas, particularly General Hospital, a daily soap opera, which he made sure he took the time out to watch. And if he didn't, he was known to be very grumpy about it. So that was it. Again, what does that mean? But it means that he still spent a lot of time cha-chaing and watching soap operas instead of doing something that he really needed to do. Now, he failed to get the Kung Fu television series part because he couldn't speak proper English. And this is something that Chinese in general have. For whatever reason, they can't seem to form proper English words without having a horrible accent. Jackie Chan, Sammo Hung, all of these people have horrible problems with the English language. So they don't speak well. So you go into a TV show and the biggest medium on the planet, which is the 1970s networks in the United States, and you're going to put on a little guy, a thin little 120-pound guy who talks well, you're going to put millions of dollars into a network for that. It had absolutely nothing to do with racism. After all, Bruce Lee was hired as the sidekick for the Green Hornet years before that. Well, why was he hired that? Because he didn't speak much. That show was a giant flop and was only one season. He wasn't given another chance because he didn't improve his English. That was the major reason. Now, this is clearly stated in the extras given with the DVD set that you get for Kung Fu, where they have excellent interviews of what happened with that series with David Carradine, the producers of the show, the people who hired Carradine, who produced the show, and they talked about Bruce Lee. And the main problem, on top of everything else, of him kind of being the small guy, 125-pound guy, was the fact that the producer said I couldn't understand almost anything he said. Well, tell the networks you're going to put him in prime time. That wouldn't have lasted long, and he would have been disgraced by it. So let's understand that. Bruce Lee also, who went to college, had a fairly poor grade point average, under 2 points, as well as part of that. So let's all get that very clear. It's also important to understand that he ruined his entire career by being an egotistical person, trying to do feats of strength to impress people. And he was very strong to do this. The problem is that it destroyed his back, and people thought that he wouldn't walk again or move at all. through his great dedication to come back from all this. He rehabilitated himself. But, once you pull something really bad in your back, as anyone really knows, it's never the same again. Plain and simple. So he was in constant pain towards the end of his life and may have not been able to go on at all. And that's why I personally think there may have been something more to his death than just what has been reported. He was at the end of his rope. He was going back to a place where he couldn't make much money, doing crappy little C, D, or these even F movies for the Chinese audience. And because he was in such horrible pain, because he wanted to be an egotistical madman and show these feats of strength to other people, which has absolutely nothing to do with martial arts. Let's keep that in mind. Everyone says it's speed. Isn't that what they say? He's so fast he could have taken anybody. Well, this is, of course, nonsense. Also, let's get into the fact that he was not 100% Chinese. His mother was Eurasian. Some people quote that she was part German. This caused the actual Chinese to say that he didn't even have a right to teach anybody because he wasn't 100% Chinese. And secondly, he shouldn't be teaching the white man to begin with. So this is all part of it, another thing you probably didn't know. So he's considered to be 1/4 European, possibly German. So these are all things you don't know about him. Well, start learning, these people that want to talk nonsense and know nothing about this man. So he put together his own little system, and he was a man apparently of great charisma. He was able to BS his way into everything, impress people. He looked good on screen. After all, he was an actor before he was a martial artist, and his father was an actor who took him into the business. So he knew how to look good on film. He knew what looked good, and he certainly put out this great image on the film. Even though, to my liking personally, I don't think anybody compares to screen looking good like Van Damme does with his splits and his movements and even his physique, who is far superior to Bruce Lee. So I don't think anybody looks better than Van Damme when it really comes down to that. But that's a personal choice. You may like his chicken screaming or not and his running around. The point is that you can't say that you're a great fighter when you've never been in a fight. He's an actor, plain and simple, and there's nothing more to say about it. He never got into any tournaments and fought anybody. There is some talk that when he was challenged by the Chinese who sent a representative over to fight him, that he did do this in private. Well, what does that mean? Well, the culmination of private fighting is that both sides stated that they won. So it proved nothing. Supposedly, the Chinese said, well, let's refight then in a public fight. Guess what? Kato said, no way, no way, no way. So Kato never really fought anybody or did anything. Now, as Chuck Norris said of Bruce Lee, that he was a fantastic technician. He knew how to move, he knew how to look good, but I am a 5-time world champion. That's right. Chuck, you're right. Full contact karate. The other person who started the full contact karate league was the finest fighter of all time, Joe Louis. Now, who said that of him? Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee said he was the greatest fighter of all time. 11-time full contact championship karate. And he started the full contact league because he didn't like the points stuff, because he felt that that was fake fighting. For all of you out there that said that that this kind of fighting Bruce wasn't, this is full contact, baby. This isn't points where you move a hand near somebody. Joe Louis was a ex-Marine, so when good old Brucey was doing the cha-cha on the ships with the rich girls, Joe Louis was learning how to kill people at a time when he was going to be sent to Vietnam on top of it. So there's no question there. Chuck Norris was also in the Army and was a military policeman. Apparently did not see any action. He was stationed in Korea. As Joe Louis, I don't know if he did any close tours, but he spent most of his time in Okinawa where he learned karate from. So the whole idea is that this is a fact, and to compare two people who are military trained to kill people, particularly Joe Louis, who was a Marine, is absurd. And also a person who was outweighed him by probably 100% and outreached him by a similar amount, which is always talked about in real fighting. But don't tell me you're a great cook, Bruce, when you've never even made a bowl of rice. You're not a chef until you cook and you show it to everybody else. Plain and simple. The bottom line is he refused to do this. And he refused to do it because basically he was afraid of losing, because that would entirely destroy his career. And apparently he's already lost to a few other people, as even the great people have. I mean, Chuck Norris didn't win all of his bouts, neither did Joe Louis. So the whole idea is that this is quite possible. And of course, that would have killed his godlike, arrogant image, where he developed in later age, thinking that he was so special when he got a great ego boost from his Chinese C movies that he was making. So that's the facts, people. Know your person. Know exactly who this Bruce Lee is and stop making an idol and making basically false claims against a person that has never really done anything. You like him? Well, frankly, it's like picking which James Bond you like. Everybody has an opinion of who their favorite James Bond is. Plain and simple. Is there one better than the other? Well, not really, because you like him. But James Bond is not a real spy. And Bruce Lee was never a real fighter. Until next time.